Welcome back to Above the Brain podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about different roads to leadership. We're going to use examples from the Bible that insinuate and display different characteristics of different individuals that stepped into leadership roles. Now, I'm a firm believer that leadership can be a life skill that you develop over time, or it can simply come naturally. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. You might be thinking that you might not be qualified or called to a leader, or you might feel that you're a great leader. However, you feel like there's other areas that you can excel in as a leader. So, I wanted to dive into some examples from the Bible that you can use to show that not everyone has the same road to leadership. Let's start with Moses. Moses was in a place of high regard, high authority, and a time where he really excelled as a leader. However, after discovering who he was and who his people was, he decided to switch gears into the profession that he was always called to be, which was leading God's people out of slavery into freedom. So he was in a place of high esteem as a leader, but realized that there was a better, greater calling awaiting for him. So yes, he was still in a leadership role, but the leadership position drastically changed. He went from a place of true natural wealth to a place of spiritual growth and spiritual wealth, allowing himself to free God's people. And he didn't even think he was qualified. It took God speaking to him through a burning bush to showcase the power and the authority that he had through God in order to lead his people to the promised land. And so Moses was an individual that really didn't find himself, even though he started out in a high qualifying position, he really didn't see himself as a leader. But he took that time to get into position, spending time with God, and did exactly what God said, following instruction, which led his people to freedom. So you might be in that position where you're already in a leadership role, but you don't feel comfortable in that role. You might be a manager at a job, but don't like that job. And so it might be time for you to transition into the position, starting your own business, doing whatever God's called you to do, maybe a manager role with a different company, to excel in what you always have been designed to do, just like Moses. Another example of a great leader was David. King David, from a young age, was a protector. He was a provider. He killed a bear. He killed a lion to protect his sheep. So he was really for his people. Who he was over, who he protected, he was all for. And that's what some leaders are. I would say naturally born leaders. David was a naturally born leader, to the point where someone who was in a leadership position that was soon going to be appointed to him, they became jealous. King Saul, the one who was the king before David. He was a king, but he wasn't the king that David was. He was all about himself. He was all about his goals, his desires, and he even cut corners at times in order for him to move forward in what he wanted to do. However, David was a man after God's own heart. He was pursuing the Lord, and he even waited patiently for his time to rise, his time to shine. So some of you might be naturally born leaders, but are waiting for the perfect time to step into your role, to step into your calling, just like David did. It was already in him, and he knew it was in him, so he knew how to display that leadership quality very well, because it was already a part of him. And that could be your case. You might be just waiting for your turn, waiting for that promotion, waiting for that elevation, waiting for the right time for God to put you in position to lead people, to lead your family, to lead your organization, to lead whomever it is that you'll be leading. So that's another example of someone who was a leader, a naturally born leader, however, waited his time to step into a leadership place. Now we look at Jesus Christ. He was the total embodiment of a great leader. Not only did he lead his people, but he taught them along the way and prepared them for being future leaders. Take time to go back and listen to my podcast on leading like Christ and kind of dive into that and see the different ways that Christ excelled as a leader. Now, some other qualifying things that was he had a plan. If you're stepping into a leadership role, you want to make sure you're prepared and do what you need to do in order to be the most effective leader you can be. Jesus Christ waited his time, just like King David, until the appointed time for him to step into his leadership role. Then he found the perfect individuals to help make his mission accessible, to help make his mission profitable, to help see his mission through. He put the right people around him with the right skill sets and the right talents. So he was good at finding those individuals that will help bring his vision to light. And then the most important thing was he was developing them along the way. It actually took him leaving and them getting filled with the Holy Spirit in order to really exemplify everything that Jesus was trying to teach him. And so he prepared them in and out, even to his last conversation. One of his last conversations with Peter was like, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. He wanted to instill in them his true heart, his true mission, the true purpose behind what he was trying to teach him, what he was trying to get them to understand as a leader. And so you'll see that all of us as leaders, our roles are different. Another example of a leader was Paul. Paul, who came after Jesus. He thought he was leading the people. He was super smart. He was super qualified. He was a Pharisee among Pharisees, and he had a great work that he thought he was doing. He thought he was doing a great work. He thought he was leading the people the right way until Jesus himself came, knocked him off his high horse, and redirected him to a path. So if you feel that you're in a leadership role and that you still can't be taught, this might be a time for you to reconsider the route that you're taking. Sometimes egos can get in the way and pride can get in the way, and we can think that we're higher than we ought. So like Paul, Jesus had to direct him to the right path, because we might think we know it all. We might think we're overly qualified. We might think we're perfect for the role to lead. However, we could be doing it the wrong way. And if we're not willing to get knocked off our higher horse and knocked down and get a reality check, then we won't be doing the fullness that God has called us to do. So if you think that you're in that same situation as Paul, be willing to be humble and receive correction, receive instruction, receive insight, so that if you're already a great leader or feel that you're already a great leader, you can become even better. We always can improve each and every day, and it's our role to be the best versions of ourselves, especially when we're carrying out the work of Christ. So just like Paul, we have to be willing to redirect our path and redirect the people and be humble during the process. Once he corrected what he was doing, he made an effort to recorrect everything that he did wrong, redirect all the people that he was leading, and then get on board with other leaders, like-minded individuals that was going down the right path. So you should be able to do that as well. Again, everyone's road is different. So allow yourself to take time to find your way on your road to leadership. And as always, be encouraged, be blessed, be inspired.
It's gonna be alright.